No Way Up is a brand new 2024 shark survival horror movie. And this takes place on a plane. They definitely changed up the setting, at least. And we get a group of people who get on a plane. The plane crashes into the ocean. It sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and they are trapped inside. There's a hole in the side of the plane. The back of the compartment that the survivors are in has a pocket of oxygen, and swimming around below them are sharks hungry for human flesh. How are they going to get out? Because there is no way up. Yes, the title plays into it. Okay, so as far as this one goes, you know, a shark movie always comes with a level of expectation. And typically, what I would mean by that is like, oh, people expect good things. No, with shark movies, I think at this point, most people expect shark movies to not be of the greatest quality. That's the kind of reputation that shark films have taken on in, my God, for a long, long time now. There hasn't been that many good ones. We did get a slew of pretty good ones for a little while there, whether it was The Shallows or 47 Meters Down or whatever. Like, we got like a couple of them in a row, or a few of them in a row that were actually quite good. And then we're kind of just back to stuff like, Black Demon and stuff that are just terrible. Um, and so I was like, okay, maybe this could be good. The uh, concept behind it seemed interesting, and Colm Meaney, however you say this guy's name, is a pretty good actor that you can count on. Um, so I thought, hey, maybe, and my wife does not like killer animal movies, especially shark movies. It's just not her thing at all. So I was like, I'll just watch this one by myself while she's at work, which I did. And it's okay-ish. Um, I think the biggest issue with this film is that when it comes to survival films, films that I love, okay, let's take a scenario kind of like this in a fantastic film called Crawl, directed by Alexander Aja. In that movie, we have two people who are trapped in an area that is flooding, and there are um, crocodiles or alligators, whatever, either gators. And they have to get out of that scenario before they drown or before they're eaten. So very similar setup. Same thing with like the pool. Um, but in that, there's always a sense of calculation by the characters to try to get themselves out of the situation. And while that is technically taking place in this film, there doesn't really seem to be much of an attempt throughout the film as much as you would like there to be for entertainment value. I'm not saying that people in reality would do anything more than these people try in this movie. In fact, I think people would do less. But when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to good writing and an audience being, um, you know, excited about what they're watching, I feel like a movie like this, there needs to be a bunch of really intelligent, entertaining attempts at trying to get out of the situation. And I feel like we kind of just sit in the back of the plane as people have their freakouts, and they are trying to kind of piece together an idea of what there is to do. But I felt like the writers kind of wrote themselves into a bit of a corner. Um, and ironically, right? But I just kept feeling the whole time that this film never felt exciting for what it was, and it felt very like repetitive. And I never felt that in Crawl. I always felt like they were attempting some new way of getting out of the situation, and then the situation was just, worse than their plan could anticipate for. And with this one, I just kept kind of feeling like, all right, like let's get out, like let's try some things, let's Nowhere. There's a movie on Netflix I couldn't recommend higher from last year where a woman is trapped in a shipping container out at sea. Now, that movie is brilliant. And the woman in that is stuck in a very similar predicament. She is by herself and she uses intelligence, and it keeps you so engaged throughout because every minute of that movie when she's in the predicament, you feel like she's working towards an end goal and you can root for her because she's trying literally every single thing imaginable, coming up with these brilliant ideas and then them failing and her going back to the drawing board. And that's what I love about movies like this, is to see people kind of try to MacGyver their way out of the situation, and suspending enough disbelief and writing it in a way where it's like it feels believable enough, where I'm like, I don't really care like if this person you know would be able to know all of these things, but they feel very intuitive in something like Nowhere. As to where here, I'm not going to say they say anything or do anything all that dumb. Exactly. The characters can be annoying, and the writing here is pretty generic, and a lot of like the drama that they set up, I feel like, is not unique, original, and as far as the portrayals of everything, the acting in this is just fine. It's serviceable, but it's not great. It's not bad. Some are better than others. One thing I will give the film credit for, though, is I do think there are a few surprise deaths, especially when they happen, and kind of not so much how they happen, but there's moments they set up where I thought like, oh, they're just gonna do this. Especially at the end, there's a character who ends up dying that I definitely thought another character was gonna have a moment with. Um, and that would go a different way, and it just didn't, and I was pretty surprised, and so I do applaud them for that. I have seen a lot of scrutiny towards the end of this film where that, I feel, they say feels like it gets really stupid. I don't feel like the ending gets any dumber than the rest of the film. I feel it all kind of blends together, so I'm gonna have to disagree there. I don't see any like glaring big thing that happened in the end that like ruined the experience for the film. I feel like it's pretty consistent throughout. It's just kind of consistently okay. So I think if you're like a big like survival movie fan, this isn't great. If you're a big shark fan, that's also another thing. They don't really utilize the sharks much, but they're always a looming presence. So I'll give them that. Um, I don't feel like it's successful in either, but it's not a terrible watch. It does kind of remind you of something like 47 Meters Down, and supposedly on the poster it was like producers of or something of that movie. So that makes sense. 47 Meters Down is better because the characters are better, the performances and the connection to the characters are better. As I said, everything here just kind of feels generic and kind of soap opera-y at times. There's like a moment where there is a ticking time clock and they're like, we got to get out of here now, and then this guy tells a story about like his childhood, and you're like, now's not the time, now's not the time. Okay, we don't have time for this. So there's just stuff like that that gets eye rolly. And they try to have some character moments where you're supposed to fist pump and all that. And I'm not going to say that like all the characters who end up getting through this are surprising. They're not. So when I say like some people who die, they surprisingly die, it's nothing like, the characters you would expect. I can guarantee you two of the survivors you're going to be able to pick out in the first 10 seconds of the friggin' movie, or well, the first couple minutes. um So that won't be of any surprise to you. But other characters, where they die and how they die, I thought was kind of surprising. So I'll give them that. Um, yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I just wish the movie was more um, thrilling. I don't know. It's a terrible situation. You're putting. I feel like the premise itself already has an advantage. Like everyone is going to be feeling tense. You're putting two or three of people's biggest fears all in one film, right? The fear of a plane crash, the fear of like being lost at sea or drowning or collapsing to the bottom of the ocean. Those are, I mean, that's three fucking in its own right there, but those are all kind of similar-ish. They're all like drowning or being in water, unsafe. And then you've got sharks, which is another part of the ocean, but you have so many fears that are compiled here into one premise that the film shouldn't feel kind of like a chore to sit through at times. So I definitely feel like there's a direction issue and a writing issue. And I don't know if the actors are capable of giving better performances than they gave, if the writing or the direction was better. I'm not sure on that. But yeah, this is an underwhelming movie. And as far as the production value goes, I thought for a lower budgeted film like this, they did pretty damn well. You definitely feel like you're on a plane. You have some pretty good effects with sharks and with the plane crash and the plane in the ocean and all that. Like all that felt pretty good. So they had the budget and utilized it well in the special effects and in the set because it definitely felt like they were at the back of a plane the whole time. So good on them for all of that. So I think this was a complicated film to shoot for sure because you've got close quarters and a lot of water and small spaces and all that. So I definitely think. Did I say small spaces twice? I think I said it in two different ways. That's funny, but that's just so tough. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to dog them out or anything. I think they made an okay movie. And if you're like a big shark fan, big survival fan, you're going to be someone who is entertained enough. You're going to be like, that wasn't very good, but whatever. It kind of was entertained. But yeah, that's it. Anyway, I'm yapping at this point. Kind of a shame because this could have been really cool, and it just ended up kind of being blah. That's a shame. That's a shame. But oh well. Let me know. All right. Bye.